As a race of hunters who claim the skulls of their quarry for trophies, you could argue that the Yautja are a sinister species. However, upon closer inspection, audiences have come to understand that these intergalactic killers have strict honor codes that they must adhere to. Do not hunt the unarmed, and do not hunt the unworthy, such as young, pregnant, or sickly individuals. Despite this, some predators have turned their backs on these rules, unshackling themselves from these restrictions and allowing their bloodlust to run riot. I'm Schizofenik, and in this video, I'll be exploring the most nefarious predators across the expanded Yautja universe in an attempt to rank the top 5 most evil Yautja. My journey to find the most evil Yautja begins with an individual who was introduced to audiences in 2018. A predator that was like nothing witnessed before, and hopefully like nothing we'll witness ever again. This gigantic genetically modified Yautja arrived on Earth to prevent the fugitive from delivering the predator-killer suit to mankind. Its nefarious acts would reach across the galaxy as the so-called upgrade would slay deadly creatures upon various planets in order to steal their DNA and become the ultimate predator. Therefore, this Yautja immediately makes it onto the list because it's a cheat. The Evolve would utilize this stolen DNA to alter its own genetics, enhancing its physical mass and strength to unrivaled levels. This act is something heavily frowned upon in Yautja society, who are a race of warriors that see any splicing of DNA with their own as an abomination. Furthermore, the upgrade predator would use these performance-enhancing traits to give him an unfair advantage in the hunt, as could be seen when he used his 11-foot frame and 700 pounds of bulk to pummel the fugitive predator into an oblivion. Therefore, this predator not only cheated its race, but its competition as well. Further to this, our sinister assassin would not limit itself to stealing ability-enhancing DNA from solely deadly prey. Its upgrade would also involve extracting the genetic instructions of an innocent child. It has long been established that the Yautja honor code would forbid predators from hunting children. This individual is so sinister, however, that he wants to tear out the spine from a defenseless juvenile. This was the motivation behind him kidnapping Rory McKenna, as it saw his autism as a form of advanced intelligence and human evolution. In order to locate his young quarry, the evolved predator would brutally kill his adversaries with a vast array of weaponry within his wrist gauntlet. However, none of the aforementioned traits are the real reason for this individual being on my list. This character was so bad that it made a mockery of Yautja, altered their lore, and disregarded over 30 years of established predator history. Ultimately, the Evolved has been selected because he almost destroyed the entire Predator franchise single-handedly, and that is truly evil. For my 4th place entry, I have selected yet another oversized predator with a serious attitude problem. The film Predators introduced audiences to a clan of a larger Yautja subspecies led by the cruel and merciless berserker. This bad blood super predator was named after the berserker Vikings, who believed that they drew power from the bear and wore the fur of the animal as they literally went berserk in battle, entering a trance-like fury. This may therefore explain the individual's bear-like jawbone on his biomask, as well as his relentless aggression. However, this predator is not on my list just because he looks intimidating. He was selected for his evil actions. The berserker's modus operandi included kidnapping whatever he considered as elite prey in order to hunt them on the game-preserved planet. By removing prey from its natural habitat, a predator would gain an unfair advantage. Just consider hunting a lion in Antarctica as opposed to the plains of Africa, where it would be far deadlier. The notion of hunting prey outside of its environment goes against the grain of the Yautja, who would visit planets to hunt the deadliest game. However, hunting prey away from their home turf is not the only rule this predator would break. As a bad blood, the berserker would slay his quarry in the most brutal and dishonourable ways, as could be seen when he tore out the spine of the downed stands. Furthermore, he would employ a similar method as he stabbed Edwin in the back just to check if he was still alive. To cut a long story short, the berserker heartlessly killed whatever opposed him, regardless of whether they were unarmed or injured. Furthermore, he would frequently attack when he had the advantage, showing no mercy or remorse, even when it came to his own kind. This is clearly elucidated when he engaged his rather exhausted and lightly armed rival known as the Crucified Predator. Instead of making it a fair fight, the berserker chose to use his formidable plasma caster before brutally decapitating his knackered enemy. As the first truly nefarious predator on the big screen, the berserker deserves a place on my list. However, this was not the first time that Predator fans were introduced to a Yautja rebel. At number 3, I have chosen Tashindi, a treacherous, unblooded Yautja who possessed a deadly ambition for power. Upon being introduced, Tashindi's rebellious nature is revealed as he makes defiant gestures at his clan leader before challenging him in battle. Despite being defeated, this moment would foreshadow his disregard for authority figures. Tashindi's rather undesirable trait was most evident when an accident left two blooded predators, Skempty and Walker, dead and Tashindi badly wounded. Forever the opportunist, however, Tashindi would seize the moment and usurp Tashindi's position as clan leader. Perhaps still harbouring a grudge from their previous encounter, Tashindi would ignore a fellow unblooded predator's advice to treat Tashindi and leave the leader for dead instead. Now with his mentor out of the way, this self-selected leader would rule his clan with an iron fist, killing any individual who opposed his revenge campaign against the humans. By pursuing human trophies, Tashindi would directly violate the rules of this hunt, clearly establishing himself and his clan as bad bloods. Tashindi's sinister disposition was made abundantly clear as he relished in the slaughter of the human residents of Prosperity Wells. Just like a true dictator, Tashindi would convince his clan to commit acts of evil against the humans by fear-mongering. Under the guise of self-defense, Tashindi would order the massacre of unarmed innocents, explaining that all humans were naturally dangerous to Yautja. The pack's initial victims would be the Sheldon family upon their isolated ranch. It was here that Tashindi killed the mother of young Robert Sheldon before the child barely escaped with his life. Much like the upgrade predator, Tashindi exhibits dishonour by targeting children who are considered unworthy prey. Tashindi's reign of terror would continue as he literally danced on the graves of his victims, perfectly elucidated in the murder of former colony administrator Hiroki Shimura. Along with his clan, Tashindi would sport the skulls of his victims on combi sticks whilst dancing around a ritualistic victory fire. What is most shocking is that amongst Tashindi's 6 collected skulls, one appears to be that of a small child. Ironically, Tashindi's cruelty is what would see him destroyed as he tried to kill Dr. Revna by mimicking Michiko Noguchi's voice. Upon his attempt to kill her, Tashindi would be slain by Tashinde, who would protect the doctor that was caring for him. From the moment he was introduced, Tashindi displayed his evil intentions, which only intensified as the story progressed. He would completely disregard the Yautja honor code in pursuit of his own murderous path to fulfill his appetite for death. Tashindi would not differentiate between prey, killing anything from xenomorphs to unarmed human children. This level of malevolence is seldom seen in an unblooded individual, but would ultimately ensure the demise of Tashindi and his entire Yautja hunting party. As treacherous as Tashindi's rebellion was, it pales in comparison to the Bad Blood uprising initiated by my next entry. Arguably the first truly evil Yautja, Nightstorm initiated the Bad Blood Revolution as he was the first predator to rise against the Honor Code over 4,000 years ago. This predator would go rogue as he felt that the restrictive laws of the hunt only served to weaken Yautja. Instead, Nightstorm theorized that all prey were equal and should be treated as such, armed or not, sick or healthy, male or female, young or old, nothing should be spared. His merciless philosophy resonated with other predators like the berserker who adopted a similar ethos years later. However, their mindset was not the only similarity as they looked alike physically. Both individuals possessed greater muscularity, more reptilian skin, swept back dreadlocks and longer faces. This is because all super predators are said to be direct descendants of Nightstorm after joining his rebellion thousands of years ago. However, turning his back on the Yautja race and honor code was not enough for this elder super predator. Empowered by his newly found cult following, Nightstorm would form an army of super predators to begin all-out war. Nightstorm's vision was clear. He demanded a Yautja genocide. Ultimately, this evil leader is the reason for the super predator versus Yautja feud, which continues to the present day. If his nefarious actions were not obvious enough, Nightstorm's malevolent nature was visually symbolized further through his biomask. Its design resembled the Egyptian deity Anubis, also known as the god of the dead. Additionally, his alias of Scarab, a type of beetle which in ancient Egyptian times symbolized rebirth and regeneration, added further meaning to his sinister status. Perhaps this name represents his idea of restarting the Yautja race in order to create a new world order that would match his own ideology. In order to create, one must first destroy. Whilst we're on the topic of destruction, I will segue into my number one entry, who is arguably the most destructive predator to grace the Yautja universe. Although most of the predators on this list are bad bloods, my number one entry is simply known as the Bad Blood. This Yautja takes immorality and wickedness to extreme levels, perfectly exhibited within the very first frames of his introduction. Readers of this comic are forced to witness the aftermath of his evil as we see the gruesome remains of its victims. This predator is not only responsible for murdering his own kind, but cannibalizing them too. Entirely proud of his nefarious acts, the Bad Blood would sport the skulls of his Yautja victims upon his costume, a predator of other predators. Free from any Yautja honor code, the Bad Blood would arrive in New Jersey to wreak havoc on literally anything that moved, whether they were armed or otherwise. His path of distraction began during a paintball game, where he viciously slaughtered the participants and attendants who tried to flee, as well as any hapless passers-by. He would subsequently turn his wrath towards some patrolling cops and a CIA special task force who were all horrifically hacked to pieces. It should also be noted that this predator's method of engagement exacerbated its evil acts. Instead of using ranged weapon like plasma casters, this individual would opt for close quarters bladed instruments. Therefore, the Bad Blood's sinister persona was emphasized further, as he preferred to witness the anguish of his prey. In addition to this, his sadistic disposition was complemented by Chris Chandler, who colored the predator in a mask of crimson. This predator's evil path of destruction became so severe that eventually the equivalent of Yautja special forces arrived to bring him to justice. The Enforcer predator was given the unenviable task of terminating this rogue Bad Blood, however was met with an unfortunate end as he was accidentally shot down by a CIA chopper. Most Yautja may have been appreciative of this unintentional assistance, however the Bad Blood is not most Yautja. This unhinged psychopath would immediately thank his assisters by leaping into the chopper and annihilating everyone on board. Moments like this are the reason why I've considered this individual for the title of the most evil predator of all time. The Bad Blood shows no reasoning for its actions, it is no sport hunter, and simply kills for the sake of killing. Targets are not selected because they may offer a challenge in the hunt, as seen during the attack on the paintballers. Further to this, the Bad Blood would not only kill, but also cannibalize its own kind. Its evil shows no bounds, it is pure malevolence, and is even considered too murderous by a race of killers. As a result, the Bad Blood wins the undisputed crown of most evil Yautja. I hope you enjoyed this countdown, but if you disagreed with any of my choices, then please list your own top 5 most evil Yautja in the comment section. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to return with more Yautja related content.